Hey everyone, for those of you who don't know, I'm Taylor, the content manager at Reveal and also the community manager of the Society. I have with me one of our Society members and also a community member of Reveal, David Chao, with Claroanalytics. And David, to me, is absolutely incredible. It also has a wealth of knowledge and partnerships. And so, David, I'll let you introduce yourself more.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm David Chow. I've been doing kind of partnerships, strategic alliances and product for, let's just say, a really, really long time. Really long time when people had like the 19s in their numbers and stuff like that. But I think the thing that really got me started in strategic alliances was this whole concept about co-opetition and best of breed. And back then in the internet, early internet days, you could build all in Microsoft, or you could piece together a lot of the elements to create a great solution. You could use an Oracle database, and you could use a Sun hardware and things like that. And it required you to compete and cooperate with a whole bunch of people that you had to in order to make your partnership successful. So got really used to almost straddling the fence between being, selling on my own and then selling with partners, and fixing partnerships, and also trying to rehabilitate partnerships, because everyone has great promise of partnerships, and then not all of them are always successful. So that's my background, everything from the early internet days to mobile app development, to IPv6, to hardware, to embedded systems, to Bluetooth. I remember cracking open the first Bluetooth development kit for the first time and laughing about why anyone would ever use this. So that's my background in technology and in partnerships.
Amazing. And what I forgot to mention for everybody is that if you have any questions as we go through the conversation, please just hold them to the end, and we'll just go through them one by one if we can. And David actually, yesterday when we were practicing, very kindly said, if we're not able to get to all of the questions, he'll reach out to you directly on Slack or through email. I was about to say through the email, because I'm 98, through email to make sure that everybody's questions get answered. So David, to get started, I guess you have a very wide range of experience in partnerships, and one of the bigger questions that I'm getting right now is from people who are just starting their partner program, but also from people who are expanding their partner program, is how to prioritize. How do I know which partners I need to work with, but also how do I prioritize my time? How do I allocate my resources? So I'd love to know kind of your experience and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so there's probably very mathematical ways to prioritize your partnerships, and then there are non-mathematical ways, and I'll walk through that a little bit. The first is you have to understand your CAC, your cost to acquire a customer, right? Because depending on where your partnership program lies is where your focus ought to be. So if you report into the chief revenue officer, you're generating revenue. You need to make sure you have to track that. If you're with a CMO, maybe you're doing lead referrals, right? You're passing on sales acceptable leads to your salespeople. If you're in corporate development, you might be looking at ways to potentially acquire a company. So you're looking for different synergies in that regards. And if you're the chief product officer, you might be, looking at partnerships in a way to augment your product, and you're much more focused technically. So where you sit is where you should be focused. So that's an important thing. If you're a smaller company and you report to the CEO, congratulations. But that's also one of the more awkward places to report, because they want you to do everything. And most CEOs, and I'm overgeneralizing, most CEOs have no idea what to do with a partnership. They just think it's a great idea. So one thing is where you sit is where you should focus. How do you prioritize that partnership then is, depending on where you're sitting, I would focus on, am I really creating a strategic value imperative here? Like, can I honestly say that if I partner with this company, I can increase my revenue this way. Or if I partner with this company, it'll accelerate my product roadmap by this much, right? So again, where you sit is where you play. And then what value you're creating within that organization is really the piece that I would focus on. So let's take a revenue situation, which most people are involved with. Is my partnership actually reducing my cost to acquire that customer? Right? Because as an individual, I need to be able to either show influence dollars, or actually in some cases, some channel programs or some partnership programs, you have to go close that deal. I've been in situations where I've created the partnership, I'm the salesperson, and then I have to go close the deal. So I have to make sure my CAC is lower than everyone, or as low or the same as somebody else's, as my marketing teams. So what I would prioritize is where have I got my most success from, right? And one thing I have learned in partnerships is get one in a row, rinse and repeat. Because, what you need to focus on, instead of like do 3 to 5 partnerships and juggle all of them, make one really successful. And the one that you pick, think about it as a Venn diagram. Which Venn diagram do I have that keeps collapsing, that has the most sets of intersecting circles, right? Do I have a good value proposition? Are people making money out of this relationship? That, is there a market fit for this? And then start looking at those areas that have the most types of concentric circles or intersections within the Venn diagram.
So what would you say for a partner program that's new, that's not necessarily, their partnerships aren't monetizing yet? How would they be able to prioritize them?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is to me is where those intersection points are, right? And the other thing is are you defining a program, or are you joining a program? So if you are starting a partner program, right? Are you the little person that's trying to team up with the big person? Or are you the big person trying to adopt more little people? There's a difference, because in some cases, if you're joining a program, you have no say. So don't tell me you have a partnership program because frankly, if you're a little system integrator and you're trying to join Oracle's going to dictate what they expect from you, right? Now, so in those cases, you really don't have much of a say in how you prioritize, because you fit a program. Now, if you're in a position, for example, like Reveal, that is trying to get other companies to join the ecosystem, then what you have to do is you have to be very cognizant of really their value propositions and how you support that value proposition. And if those things don't have a really, really good, strong definition, like if you can't explain it really easily, then you're going to lose, right? So how I would prioritize when you're starting a program really has to do with, again, does it make sense from a solution? Is there product market fit? Is there sales synergy? Don't let, and this is really important, don't let executives say that it's going to work if your salespeople haven't met. Because salespeople, the executives will have great dinners, they'll play great golf, they'll go and hang out at great bars, but they're not the people in the field that have to work with the salespeople. They're not the people that have to say, all right, I'm going to share my lead with you, so let's go in together. Don't let the executive tell you that it's going to work when it may not.
So I'm glad that you went there, because I was going to go back there, but you already went there. So you said earlier, in addition to this, you said most CEOs don't know. And so there's a hierarchy, and you want to be able to, you need to be able to communicate with somebody who doesn't know, who sees value, but then they don't understand what's going on, and they don't know. And so in this situation also, they don't know. How do you convey that information, or what's your advice to convey that information? One, of the partnership value, but also in that situation where they don't know what they're talking about and sales team.
Well, you can't ever tell a CEO they don't know what they're talking about, but you really have to sometimes. I think the important thing is like it's almost like matching up two sides of a coin. You want to say, you know, we fit here strategically. My partner fits here. As a result, we're better together, right? For example, take application development, right? And a testing organization. Well, we build the app, but we want to outsource the testing of the app. That seems like it makes good sense, but you have to check to make sure that you're working on the same size companies, the same size applications, because if you're working on really monster applications, a testing organization that has 3 people is not going to be able to support that partnership. So you're not aligned very correctly. So the important thing is to articulate that. And the other thing is use your executives as escalation points. And what I mean by that is just when you're creating what we used to call champ plans, and those are just basically agreements with your partner, right? We're going to meet once a month and talk about sales funnel. Once a quarter, we're going to talk about what's coming up on the product roadmap, and we're going to plan a marketing event once a quarter, right? That will include maybe our chief product officer or our chief marketing officer. Once a year, we're going to have a face-to-face with our executives, and we're going to set new goals for our partnership every year. You need to get buy-in at every level on both sides, on your team and on the other, on your partner's team, so that there's a mutual expectation of, okay, we're going to meet, we're going to talk about goals, we're going to meet, and then you're having conversations that are rational to the CEO. How much are we generating out of this partnership? How much is it costing me? They can get that. They don't need to know all the nitty gritty about, you know, how many, you know, coffees you had sharing leads.
So what do you think the best way, what are some ways that things that you've done to get buy-in?
Oh, one is that depending on where you are, if you're trying to get more partners, the challenge I've always found is that our CEOs have always thought our product is better than it really is. and and that the world should partner with us because it's so much better than everybody else, right? and so I think the way you get around something like that is when you are laying out, like you do this in a company, you do product market fit all the time. Does my product market fit, right? Well, now do a joint product market fit valuation, right? And then talk to 2 customers. That's the big thing is that when you can bring in what the market is saying to your leadership and saying, well, here's what's our hypothesis, that our teaming up with this partnership is going to make it that much better. And as a result, we went and talked to 2 customers, and here's where it's leading to, right? It doesn't have to be a closed deal. That's really important because closed deals happen on a timing standpoint. But what you have to do is you have to get joint product market fit, right? You are doing product marketing and you're doing product development and really essentially with somebody else. And so you have to still test those same hypotheses.
Great. And so I guess for anybody, actually, I'm not going to ask this first. I'm going to ask you this instead. Yesterday, you told me this really incredible story about how you know you understand what it's like to speak to someone who is your superior, say like in the hierarchy, and you know how to stand your ground. Do you mind sharing like a little bit of that story, just of like how to stand your ground and stay true to yourself when you're in a situation that you maybe disagree with an executive that maybe has a not, you know.
Yeah, I think for all of you in partnerships, who you are is your brand. and how you approach controversy, how you approach conflict, because inevitably in every partnership there is one. Your salespeople will screw up. You'll screw up. And the question is like, in the long term, people want to deal, especially in partnerships. I think I was reading somewhere in this in the Slack about, in our channels, about, you are your brand as a partner leader, and you have to bring your best to that partnership, even in, and then this is my opinion and other people may differ from me, even if it means you have to represent your company in a way that in the long run is right for the company, but may have an initial hit at first. So I was with a company that had to pay Microsoft a service provider license agreement. We were a big hosting company, and we hadn't been calculating it correctly, to the tune of almost $6 million. And because we didn't calculate it correctly, Microsoft wasn't taking us real seriously. But more importantly, our account manager was getting in trouble. Our partner account manager was getting in trouble. So I went back to our team and said, we have a liability of $6 million. Regardless of whether or not we think we calculated it right or not, we have a liability. So we have to do something about this. And nobody wants to take, a couple $1 million out of no matter how wealthy an organization you are. But by taking that and talking to the executives and saying, listen, we can either pay the $6 million, hopefully we can negotiate something lesser, but in the long run, it's the right thing to do from the partnership standpoint. Now you're expressing your own personal integrity into the organization, and that builds trust between you and the partner account manager, importantly, but then the organization, right? When this one big organization can say to the other big organization, we did the right thing and we resolved it. As it turned out, we paid far less than what we were supposed to, because Microsoft was actually like, wow, we didn't know that you were calculating it wrong either. So great. Thanks a lot. And let's go. So, but,
no, I think
but I will tell you that that partner account manager he and I have been longtime friends ever since then. And that goes 15 to 20 years because we did the right thing.
And I imagine it's not always easy. I imagine, in life and also in partnership.
Yeah.
So in regards to building partnerships, so we just talked about like communicating internally, but in terms of externally, what is your take on expanding partnership? Like, say a partner program is doing well and it's time to expand. What are some of the better tactics that you've seen in terms of partnership expansion, whether it be into a new territory, but still in the same country, or even a new territory in a different country?
Yeah. The important thing is like, not everybody has the benefit of being only a partnership manager or only a strategic alliance manager. It's actually quite a luxury to have that, right? But you have to begin to set the stage for building the right support team around you. And what that is like sales enablement, right? If you're sales focused, you have to make sure your sales enablement teams are ready to handle what does it mean to go train another sales team that's not your own, right? Because as a partner manager, you're probably handling that, right? As an alliance manager, you're probably the interface to training. You shouldn't be. So before you scale to other regions, things like that, make sure you have talked to the leadership team about, I'm going to need sales enablement. I'm going to need marketing help, right? Even if it's just channel marketing help. I don't care if they report to me or not. Some people, alliance people, will try to own the whole team. Most likely they're going to sit within their function, but make sure that you're setting that stage before you start running out and going, oh, I'm going to open up three more regions, 3 more territories, because you're your ability to scale and support those customers really rely on, you can't be the only individual that does that. There's a whole lot of underlying things that you want to begin to consider. Sales enablement. You want to talk about marketing programs. You want to talk about, marketing development funds. If you're going to go into a new region, how are you going to support that partner? You might want to consider a marketing development fund that gives them an opportunity to run a lunch and learn, or host a wonderful webinar, and then be able to get those things going, because you have to still contribute to, always think about, how do I contribute to my partner's success? And if you always think that way, I guess my wife would tell me that too, always think about her first. but if you're always thinking about the other partner and how to make them successful, then your partner program will be much more successful.
So for the people who don't have said luxury of being only a partnership manager, which are many of the members of the society, but also I feel like in general, many people in general, what are the best ways to go about prioritizing time, finding resources? Because if their job isn't exclusively partnership manager, then that probably means that they don't have all the resources that they need. What do you think? Like, what is your recommendation for that?
I think you have to, unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand how an alliance program kind of injects itself into scale, right? And I think you spend a majority of you should spend time, not all of it, you should spend time educating people on how your deals coming in are helpful to the organization to scale. The reality is you have to be your partner's advocate within your organization, right? And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that they have full exposure and full view of the work that you're doing. So even if it means do a weekly newsletter, internal newsletter to your key stakeholders. Hey, these are the leads that we generated. These are the opportunities we're talking about. This is the possible revenue we might close. It could be a 3-paragraph email that goes to your stakeholders, goes to your executive team, but goes to your product manager, goes to your marketing manager, goes to your, social media, your content manager, so that they're beginning to see, wait, there's a lot more activity that's going on here that I need to be aware of. You have to be able to communicate extremely well, internally as well as externally, because immature partnership programs or immature organizations that don't understand how alliances really work, you need to do that education for them. So do a weekly little update on what you've done, or every 2 weeks.
That's excellent. We have about 3 minutes left to go, and so I'm going to open it up to the people. And if anybody has any to the membership of the society, and if anybody has any questions for David, be it about something that we've covered or something that we haven't covered, don't hesitate. Just either drop it in the chat or in the Q&A, wherever feels comfortable. All of these questions I will ask anonymously, fear not. And as we wrap up, or while you consider whatever questions you have, David, do you have any kind of like final thoughts or any words of wisdom for anybody based off of your observations over the last 20-ish years of being in partnerships?
I think the reality is they take time to be done well. And for those of you that get brought in and like you have a quarter to get this partnership going, that's hard. So the one thing I think people underestimate is the amount of time it takes to build good relationships, build good value proposition, and then build trust. But I think I think if you set that expectation ahead, especially those that are building programs, that it's going to take time, then I think you'll be setting the expectations correctly. What I see is people, oh, we have a partnership. Everybody wants to partner with us. Great. But the only reason why is because you have more leads to go into accounts than they do. And so they're just going to sit on you to bring them into deals. That's not really mutually beneficial. It's beneficial to them, but really not mutually beneficial.
What about, we actually have several people in attendance right now that are quite tenured, or more, definitely their partner programs are far more, I'd say about like maybe 50% of the people that are here have a pretty advanced program. Do you have any thoughts about, from your experience when you were in larger programs?
Yeah, be creative in how you calculate benefit. So what I mean by that is think about all your aggregation points and all your touch points to make your program look even bigger. I was with a large telco, but it had a whole bunch of subsidiaries, and how we got really good traction was we added up the spend of all the subsidiaries. And what it turned out is, as an entire entity, we were maybe one of the top 5 customers in the world. But when you look at everybody separately, we were inconsequential. So think about your aggregation points. Think about where much more than just your direct touch, but ancillary. Be really creative on how you can aggregate value across your entities, and think about it that way on the more mature programs.
We do have one question. Is there, on the long run, automatically a choice to be made between efforts on your sales team or efforts on your partnership team because indirect sales work better, or should the two always coexist?
Efforts on your partnership. Well, they kind of are a virtuous circle. So I think they always need to kind of coexist, because if you're generating revenue through your sales teams, then you have a better story to tell more partners, right? And then the partners have to keep going because hey, my sales teams keep selling other people's stuff. So it's this duality of, making that flywheel continue to go by creating more stories where revenue continues to get sold, gets created.
All right, guys. David, talking to you is always a delight. And getting to hear you talk about what you're doing professionally is also amazing. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Yep.
For all the members of the society, thank you so much for joining. This will be available on demand. I'll share it on the Slack channel as well as through an email. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to message me on Slack or David on Slack. He is, I'm going to speak on your behalf, readily available and a wealth of knowledge and a delight to talk to. And we will see you all again very soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye. Thank you.